So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round one of a new Tautus Formula Alpha Championship here at the Red Bull Ring. Unfortunately, we're not quite joining the action on track at the moment because, owing to a couple of server issues, we are unable to join the action with qualifying. But don't worry, we will be in there for the race, so I'll give you a good rundown of the grid before we set off. Well, welcome back to the action here in Austria, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for the delay and the missing of qualifying there, but we are back and we are ready to go. It's round one of the 2021 Halfords Formula Alpha Championship Part 2. We, of course, enjoyed the championship that saw Matt Daly taking victory for the first half of 2021, and in 50 seconds we'll be lights out and ready to go for the second half of the year's running. Here in the Styrian Mountains, we are at the Red Bull Ring. It's obviously a short lap if you're a F1 fan. It's going to be a little bit longer in these Tartus FAO1 cars powered by Alfa multi-air engines. It's looking to be an exciting race. We have 12 cars on the grid at the moment, although I believe we should have more. We are splitting the grid. We have Pro and Am categories this year. But I believe we might actually be missing a few owing to the football semi-final that's on tonight. So with 15 seconds left until lights out, let's get ready to go. We have Colin Knief, who took pole in qualifying. Alex Smith with a very good second position. Andrew Whitehead taking third. George Brooks-Battersby, new to the championship, taking fourth. And the gantry is lit. And we are away. Colin Knief gets a nice little bit of launch, a little bit of wheel spin, to be honest, though. In fact, everyone getting a good launch, to be honest. That was very nice indeed. Just see car number 7 there of Anthony Gray coming up on George Brooks-Battersby, and there's a spin. There's a spin for Will Harper. Oh dear, what a shame for him. That'll see him right at the back of the grid at the very start of the race. And that was just through the exit of turn 1. I'm not sure if a bit of contact was involved, perhaps. That sees Alex Smith in third. Andrew Whitehead has found his way up into second as we head into turn 3 then. Nice little bit of track action that we're unfortunately missing, going to the new timing screen graphics that we can see. Hopefully you are enjoying them. It's going to take me probably a round or two to get used to the controls, but so just I'm going to actually whack it back into automatic mode very quickly. We can see there a second separating Andrew Whitehead and Adam Holder, another rookie to the championship. As we watch there, Adam Holder is going a little bit wide through turn 4, allowing Alex Smith to take second position back. About 3-second lead now for Colin Knief out in front. He's running very nicely indeed. See, actually we're on board with Andrew Whitehead there, who is gaining on Adam Holder, but he himself is under pressure from George Brooks-Battersby, apologies, there as we head into turn 8 now. Very high speed setup, pardon me, that wasn't turn 8, that was turn 9. Very high speed section of track, this the end of the lap. You can very easily become foul of track limits through turn 10. It's something that drivers will have to watch out for as we go 3 wide down the start-finish straight. And heading into turn 1 then, who's going to be braver under braking? It's going to be Andrew Whitehead for the moment, who takes back third position with George Brooks-Battersby still holding off Adam Holder for the moment. They are going to be side by side as we head through turn 2. It's not really a turn, it's more of a kink in a straight. These cars will feel it more than others, though, these F4 chassis-based cars. And as we head into turn 3, then who is going to be braver under braking? See the huge amount of undulation there, as unfortunately covered up a little bit of contact between these three here, racing very close indeed, heading down towards turn 4. See on the timing system there, the drivers are absolutely neck and neck, about a tenth separating these two heading through turn 4. He wasn't pushed wide, Andrew Whitehead, but it looks like Anthony Gray's got a little bit of a better exit through turn 4, and heading into turn 5, he might be able to dive on the brakes, and he does indeed. However, he doesn't get a very good line. Andrew Whitehead stays on the inside. I thought that was going to give him a bit more of an advantage than it did, but it doesn't. He's going to have to tuck behind the car of Anthony Gray. Meanwhile, all this battling is going on. It has allowed Alex Smith and Colin Knief to absolutely walk away. Now about 4 seconds separating this cluster of cars to Alex Smith, and then another 4 seconds separating Alex Smith and Colin Knief. As we head in through turn 10 then and set a lap, we see there Colin Knief setting fastest lap over 1:32 dead, running very nicely indeed with a full load of fuel on board. Obviously, you want to probably run as little wing as possible around this track here. It's a lot of high-speed corners. Oh dear, there's a bit of contact in the braking there. I'm not sure if that was lag. That has seen Anthony Gray go quite wide through turn 1 there, and he has conceded the position to Adam Holder, who is running very nicely indeed in 4th position. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened to George Brooks-Battersby for a second there. I'm not sure if that was a bit of the turn 3 contact that I alluded to earlier, but he's currently running in 7th position. See, just over half a second separating Adam Holder and Anthony Gray. Anthony Gray hoping to gain in the slipstream heading towards turn 4 now. See, just behind Anthony Gray, in fact, we have Paul Millman, who is gunning up the rear, very close behind indeed, less than half a second separating him and Anthony Gray. Anthony Gray taking a bit of a wider line through turn 6 there, my apologies. But he has gained on Adam Holder quite considerably, it must be said now, only about 2 tenths separating him. He's going to run a little bit wide on the gravel, unfortunately. That's upset the car big time and sending hurtling towards a wall. I imagine he got it stopped in time there, but unfortunately for him, that's his challenge for the podium over for the moment. Paul Millman then promoted up into 5th position. Anthony Gray really suffered in that instant there. Sees him in 9th position. Will Harper currently running 8th following the spin that he had earlier. And he is running very close with Guy Swarbrick indeed, and in fact makes contact between Guy Swarbrick and Will Harper on the exit of turn 9 there. It's not what you'd expect to see cars going side by side. Usually you kind of get all the action done in sector 2, and we see George Brook-Brattersby also getting quite a bit of oversteer, and Paul Millman also doing a bit of rallycross, in fact. There's been a chaotic end to this lap, and you see Paul Millman now carrying a bit of damage. Will Harper now down in 10th, Guy Swarbrick in 11th, so they've lost a couple of positions there, and you see the rear tyres on Will Harper's car not particularly happy after the incidence of that previous lap there, so that means Anthony Gray is now running back up in 7th position. He'll be relatively happy with that. John Baker, another rookie to the series. Welcome, John. Currently running 8th, heading through turn 3 at the moment, behind Anthony Gray. See, Colin Knief has, in fact, he hasn't put Paul Millman that's pitted. Apologies there, still getting used to new graphics. Colin Knief, though, running out in front very nicely indeed. Well, I say that, I'm not sure if there's been a bit of a glitch with a setter there. It has, in fact, put Paul Millman in 1st position. Not sure if it's given him a lap there, maybe. But Colin Knief was running out in front by quite a decent margin, it must be said. Yeah, it must just be because Paul has returned to the pits after that damage. Setting very quick time there, Colin Knief at 1:31.8. Unfortunately, I'm not quite sure what the pole time was, having missed qualifying myself owing to a couple of server issues. See, a lot of cars having to pit due to damage, unfortunately. Not exactly how some of these drivers would have wanted the championship fight to have begun. But still, the leaders remain unchanged. It's Colin Knief, Alex Smith and Andrew Whitehead. Experienced drivers now who have all demonstrated some very good pace in the first half of the year's running. And they are showing their skill so far within the first 10 minutes of this race, it must be said. See, George Brooks-Battersby, unfortunately, having to pit as well. It's such a shame because he was running very nicely indeed, given it was his first Formula Alpha event with us. He's in 10th at the moment. Guy Swarbrick is in 9th. Rob Whitney in 8th. John Baker in 7th, who's currently chasing down Will Harper. In fact, Will Harper running 6th, recovering a little bit from the mishaps that we saw earlier on in the race. Anthony Gray running 5th. Adam Holder running 4th. Andrew Whitehead running 3rd. Alex Smith running 2nd. And Colin Knief currently out in the lead by about 6.5 seconds, running very nicely indeed. I imagine he's quite relaxed out in front for the moment. He hasn't had too much stress. He saw a little bit of a challenge. Maybe a little bit on lap 1, but those times just keep falling down for Colin Knief at 1:31.4. He has found a good rhythm out in front. Got on board then with Rob Whitney in the Parts World car, hunting down John Baker. Rob Whitney, of course, suffering from the previous incidents of this race so far. Heading through turn 9 then. He's going to wait until John dives to the outside line of the circuit to give him a little bit of slipstream. He's gaining ever so slightly down as we head towards turn 1. He was a little bit safe under braking there, it must be said. He wasn't trying to try any huge lunges. He's now found about half a second on John as we head towards turn 3 then, or rather turn 2, but as I mentioned before, it's more of a kink, and as we can see there, Rob overtaking John and heading into turn 3 then. Rob, if he gets a good exit out of turn 3, which he does, should have the upper hand as we head towards turn 4. But don't count out that slipstream. It's very powerful around here in these cars. They're not the most powerful things in the world, powered by that 170 PS multi-air engine. On board then with Colin Knief, who is encountering some lapped traffic now. It's Paul Millman in 11th. He was running quite nicely before until that unfortunate incident saw him having to return to the pits. I'm not sure actually if all those pits that we saw was damaged. I'll have to double check to see if we are running any differences in the penalty system and maybe they have been forced to return to the pit by an automated system. I don't believe we have changed any penalty systems. We can see there Colin diving into the slipstream of Paul Millman, using the back marker to his advantage as much as possible before he aims to get past him through Sector 2. And Paul just letting Colin get past there as they head into turn 6. Now about 7.5 seconds separating the leader and Alex Smith. Alex Smith himself running very nicely indeed. We just see there. It's been an unfortunate bit of maybe a mistake for John there. That has allowed Adam and Guy to get past. Pardon me, that's not Adam, that is George. See George getting a little bit unhappy on the exit of the corner there. That's lost him a little bit of speed. It doesn't look like Guy is catching up too much, but I just heard then the audio. It was just hear the car kind of almost sounding like it was about to stall. Apologies there. That reminds me, in fact, for whatever reason, you don't appear to be hearing my game audio. It's all set up to be doing that, but unfortunately, I mean, these aren't the loudest race cars on the planet, but you should still be able to hear them. So as we get closer to the halfway point of this race, we are seeing the drivers now kind of finding their rhythm, finding their groove, running where they are comfortable. It'll be interesting to see as we head around this high-speed Red Bull ring, though, just how the tyres begin to treat the drivers, or the drivers begin to treat the tyres as we head into the later stages of the race. We've seen on numerous occasions that fortunes can be turned around quite substantially when the tyres start to give up towards the end of a race and the car is not under you as you expect it to be. Just losing that little bit of mechanical grip as the race goes on. We see Anthony Gray making an error there. That sees him in 6th position now. Will Harper getting past. A good recovery drive from Will Harper so far. After those earlier incidents, he's currently running 5th. And should be on for a nice set of points if this continues. Colin Knief setting a quickest lap of the race then, as we have an incident from Guy Swarbrick there. See a little bit of damage on his front wing, actually quite a lot of damage on his front wing. Also being carried by John Baker in 9th in front of him. I don't think there's ever been a race where I've seen one of these Tarsus cars survive with fully functioning aero. Part and parcel and the fun of this close virtual racing. About 10th separating Guy and John as they head through turn 6. A gap just extended just a little bit there. Guy does look like he's nursing quite a bit of damage as he heads through turn 7. It really won't be helpful at all in these high-speed corners. That lack of front downforce won't be helping your grip levels, and it won't be helping your confidence in the car at all. The car will just kind of be squirreling about and not driving as you would expect it to. As they head through turn 9, you can just see guys having to carry much less speed. And into turn 10, I imagine quite a lot of understeer will be in the car now. It didn't look too bad that time, actually. Maybe he was preparing for that and wasn't carrying quite as much speed on entry. Let's see, will he try anything under braking into turn 1? He doesn't. He was a little bit too far back that time. See the car getting a little bit squirrely on exit there, but nothing too major. And is now very close between George and Rob Whitney out in front as we head towards turn 3. George, very good under braking there. Just the door was pretty much left open for him, and he saw that opportunity and he took it, taking 6th position with a very nice move indeed. George takes 6th, heading up to turn 4 then. Will Rob be able to challenge him in any way? As we see, Geiss Robic has overtaken John, and John has fought back. Fortunately, the camera not quite taking us to the action where we want to see it. As they crest over the hill then, they are pretty much side by side, heading towards turn 4. Who's going to be braver under braking? It looks like it's going to be John for the moment. But Guy's going to cut back. We've seen that move a few times happening in real life as well, where you take the outside line and kind of bait your opposition and cut into the inside, giving you a better exit and allows you to take it on the straight away. But that doesn't look like it's worked for Guy this time round. See, Anthony Gray and Rob Whitney now less than half a second apart, heading towards turn 9 then. Got a nice little train going on here of cars who I imagine will be battling quite far into this race. We've seen Anthony Gray and Rob Whitney having some very good battles in both the Formula Alpha and the Touring Car Series in the first half of this year, and long may that continue, and it looks like it will continue as we head into the final 10 minutes of this race then. He'll be braver under braking into turn 1. We just see Anthony Gray looking like he was exploring maybe the outside just a little bit there. Wasn't quite going to work from that far back, unfortunately for him, but he will carry that slipstream up towards turn 3. Then the big uphill. It doesn't look that big or dramatic, but it's a very, very mountainous area here at the Red Bull Ring in the Styrian Mountains. And this battle for 7th will be taking us up that hill then. As we see, he carried much more speed through the corner there and through exit. He's carried that momentum and he's gained quite substantially heading towards turn 4 then. It looks like John and Guy looks like almost had a little bit of a coming together maybe. I don't think so. The cars were a bit oddly positioned, but we're going to rejoin the action fighting for 7th as Anthony and Rob are exiting turn 4. Anthony looking to go around the outside of turn 6 then. That was a very good move indeed. We saw that work for Fernando Alonso on George Russell this time in real life. I don't think it was there, in fact, but we saw that through multiple laps of the Formula 1, and we're seeing that here in these Tarsus FA01 cars. Anthony and Rob side by side into turn 9, and Anthony much braver under braking and kind of forcing Rob to concede the position, and he will start this next lap out in front. He's gone a little bit wide through turn 10 there and picks up a little bit of dirt for his troubles. That shouldn't affect him too badly, but his run onto the start-finish straight won't be perfect. See John and Guy's battle still raging on as they start their next lap. Guy fighting to keep 9th position. Under braking. John's cutting a little bit of the curb. That just upset the car a little bit. It's not the ideal line through turn 1, and we just see he's lost a little bit of time as a result of that. It just upset the car a little bit too much. You're carrying a bit too much speed to be clattering the curbs in these cars. These quite short wheelbase cars. It hasn't quite worked out for him this time round, as we see Rob and Anthony slowly starting to separate after the very well fought battle as they head towards turn 4. We're just under 8 minutes remaining then. It's still Colin Knief out in front with nearly 10 seconds on the car behind. He's been running an absolutely fabulous race, it must be said. It's something that we saw in the first half of this year, and it's something we're going to see again through the second half. And of course, with his championship rival from the first half, Matt Daly, not present at the moment, this will give him a nice haul of points to start his championship challenge with. Alex Smith then about 20 seconds behind. In second, once again, he has had a very good race and should be collecting a nice haul of points for himself. Andrew Whitehead, he's about 4 seconds behind. If he's lucky and if he's stored his tyres well, he should be able to push towards Alex Smith, and we could be on for a very good fight for second towards the end of this race, so stay tuned for that. As we see that gap between, Rob and Anthony there, but it looks like John Baker's made a mistake, and unfortunately he's going to have to dive into the pits as he got damage. You may just want to nurse that damage if it's not too substantial. With 6 minutes to go, it may be better off than a long pit stop. Fortunately, that will bring an end to the battle between Guy and John, with him pitting there. We see Andrew is starting to lose just a little bit of time to the car in front there. So maybe we are now starting to see that cliff edge of grip, or cliff edge of tyre life starting to come into effect, where you start to see the drivers are going to start to struggle with the set of boots that are on the car that have hauled them through the first 20 minutes of this race. I'd love to know what lap we're on at the moment, but unfortunately, as you can see with the new timing screen, which is a very cool and very swish setup, thanks to Guy for helping getting that prepared. We can see there it's saying it's the final lap and has done since lap 1. See Guy Swarbrick then having the current race leader Colin Knief for company. He's conceded the position to Colin, so he can carry on his charge out on the lead lap. As Paul Millman does the same for Alex Smith, who's currently running a very nice second, indeed a very comfortable second. It's not the most comfortable position. That must go to first position Colin Knief, who has just had no real opposition throughout this entire race, it must be said. Textbook championship winner's drive, it must be said. Of course, he didn't win last time round, unfortunately. It was very close, but we know he's got it in him, and we'll know he'll be fighting as we carry on to the next 11 rounds of this championship. Of course, we do have the reverse grid race to look forward to as well, which we'll see actually 2 separate grids this time around for the Pro and Am competitors. So the Pro competitors, who are the experienced drivers who have already raced in the championship, will have their own separate reverse grid. We'll all be on the same bit of tarmac, but they will be reversed, and then the amateur competitors will have a reverse grid between themselves as well. We see John getting close to Guy once again, heading towards turn 4. See, they're actually on John's livery. He's managed to get himself the number 1. Is there a previous Formula Alpha Championship that that we don't know about? If not, well, if there is, congratulations. Our number 1, obviously at the moment, Matt Daly is not here, so you can keep number 1 warm. Then you can borrow that from Matt for the moment, but I'm sure he'll be asking for that back as soon as he joins us for some Formula Alpha racing. Andrew Whitehead then. The podium for him is looking pretty comfortable for the moment, it must be said. Of course, don't count anything out. Don't count an error through turn 9 or underbraking through turn 4. That's one you have to watch out for on the downhill, actually. Don't count that out. 17 seconds. You could easily have your fortunes turned around, or maybe a bit of a collision with a back marker, perhaps. We have seen it happen before. And Andrew does have some back markers to contend with in just a second. Guy Swarbrick actually running nicely now, 2.5 seconds off Rob Whitney out in front as they head towards turn 4. And we just see just out in front. He hasn't had much screen time yet, Colin Knief. It's because he's been running a perfect race. No real action, no real stress. It's exactly what you want when you're out in front. 25 seconds now between him and Alex in second. Alex, a very quick driver, but he just hasn't had anything to match Colin in this first race of this championship. As we head into the final 2 minutes then. Guy's now found about half a second on Rob, as we can see with the graphic at the bottom there. The gap is about 2 seconds for the moment. As he head down straight, he's lost a little bit of time, probably about a tenth or so. That could just be owing to a difference in setup, or the fact that, as we can see there, Guy Swarbrick's car has got some substantial front-end damage. The gap has shrunk massively through turn 1 there. Guy nailing turn 1, whereas Rob struggled just a little bit. Now about a second separating him as they head up towards turn 3. And if Guy is braver under braking, he may find some even more time, or he's better through the exit. And he is. A much nicer exit. We just saw Rob Whitney's car there, the back end just snapping just a little bit on exit. Now about half a second between them as they head towards turn 4. We saw turn 4 as a very good overtaking opportunity. It's very tight, very narrow. You can soon find yourself on the gravel. But risk versus reward, it pays nicely if you get it right. Now about 4 tenths separating them as we head towards turn 6. See Guy Swarbrick's car there, a little bit of understeer creeping in. He's lost a little bit of time as a result of that. I'm not sure if that's tyres or lack of downforce or both. But that's not what you want when you're trying to fight with the car out in front. There's not too much aero on these, so it's not like in higher categories where you have to contend with dirty aero or that type of thing. It will be a little bit of that, but not to the extent we see in other categories. So this will just be down to Guy trying to wrestle with the car as it starts to protest towards the final stages of the race, and the timer is nearly at its end. Now about 8 tenths separating them on the start-finish straight. We saw Guy gained a huge amount of time through turn 1 on the last lap. Can he do the same this time round and really put some pressure on Rob for 8th position? He does, in fact. He's now going to be pretty much, I imagine, side by side as they get towards turn 3. He's very nicely in that slipstream now. He just seems much more confident, much more comfortable with the car through turn 1, and that has paid dividends as they are now pretty much side by side heading uphill into turn 3. He does have the inside line, and we see he takes the position. He takes the position through the corner and on exit. He keeps it for the moment. Rob Whitney did get a pretty good exit that time, and they're going to be side by side. Rob Whitney taking back 8th then down the straight. In fact, it looked like it was carrying quite a bit of speed. Guy having to dive on the brakes just a little bit there to keep control of the car. And he was a little bit slow back onto the throttle by the sounds of things then. And unfortunately, he's about half a second behind now in 9th position as we head through turn 6. So Guy has nailed that turn 1 then. And we saw Rob Whitney has to recover from the time lost further into Sector 2. Guy enjoying Sector 1 then. We're going to see he's looking. He's seeing which bit of tarmac he can use to try and get round Rob as we head through turn 9. And he was very brave. It looks like has Rob pitted there. Rob has pitted indeed. We're on our last lap and Rob has had to pit, unfortunately. I don't know if he's got to serve a drive-through or maybe he's out of fuel or some type of mechanical issue, but for whatever reason, Rob has had to concede 8th position to Guy Swarbrick. I'm sure Guy Swarbrick will be pretty happy with that, knowing that he can bring it home comfortably in 8th now. Nice few points for him to start the championship off with, but we'll join Colin Knief then as he rounds out his final lap of this race. It will be a decisive victory for him. He did a very good job in qualifying, taking pole position, and a very good job leading every single lap of this race with impressive pace, setting fastest lap after fastest lap. About 25 seconds between him and the car behind. He has started his championship fight off with a bang here in Austria. And he'll be hoping to put that type of pace in the reverse grid race coming up in just a moment as well, as he heads through turn 6 and turn 7. Through turn 9 with Colin Knief then. He's remained pretty much unchallenged for the entire race, and he will remain unchallenged until the very last corner of the very last lap. A little bit of lap traffic to contend with there. Not much contention though, as Colin Knief crosses the line, taking home the first win of this season. Pardon me. It's only been 2 weeks and I'm clearly out of practice. As you see, back marker car there, as it's not quite the last lap. I got a little bit overexcited there. That is quite the blooper on me in the commentary box there. Or is it? No, he has in fact. These drivers have in fact crossed the line, I do believe. My apologies, yes. Then we have Alex Smith taking home 2nd and Andrew Whitehead taking home 3rd. Oh, you can tell I'm not used to these graphics yet. This is the end of the race. I do apologise for the confusion there. Will Harper actually running very nicely in 4th at the moment, heading through turn 9 then. He has had a very nice recovery indeed following his misfortune at the start of the race. And he will take home 4th position. A nice set of points to start off his championship fight. Yes, my apologies there. I did believe it was the final lap. But then I saw final lap, obviously not used to the graphics yet, and decided that it wasn't the final lap when it was the final lap. So my victory announcement was in fact correct, I do believe. Of George Brooks Battersby on his debut, taking home a very nice 5th position as well. He can be pleased with that result. But yeah, apologies for the confusion at the end of the race there. Not quite used to the graphics. You almost think I'm out of practice after just 2 weeks. Such is the fun of virtual racing. Anyway, we will join you in just a moment for the reverse grid race. So welcome back to the action then here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. We're in the Styrian Mountains for the reverse grid section of the weekend. We have Adam Holder on pole at the moment with Anthony Gray in second position, George Brooke Battersby in third, Will Harper taking home fourth, Andrew Whitehead in fifth, Alex Smith in sixth, Colin Keneath, the previous race winner, in seventh, Paul Millman in eighth, John Baker in ninth, Rob Whitney in 10th, and Guy Swarbrick in 11th. It's 30 seconds until light out, and let's see what happens. Always chaos in the reverse grid race the first few laps. The drivers will be hoping to keep it clean and try and find themselves upper in the higher grid positions. See flame spitting from Adam Holder's car there as the gantry is lit. And we are away. Adam getting a good launch there, actually. A lot of wheel spin, but the car kind of took off regardless. We see Andrew Whitehead trying to push his way through the field, and he's going to try, I imagine he's going to try something under braking there through turn one. As we see, he does try something and very nearly finds himself in a wall as a result of it. Watching then as they are pretty much side by side heading towards turn two and up the hill towards turn three. Who's going to be braver under brakes, Will or Andrew? For the moment, it looks like it's going to be Andrew. As we see him just boxing off, is that George? It was George. He's made contact with Colin Keneath by the looks of it. No one came off too bad from that, I don't think. So it's a lucky escape for all the drivers involved then, as we are pretty much three wide heading towards turn four. Still, I think all the drivers surviving turn four for the moment, but it looks like Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney are very close together indeed. Unfortunately, we've just missed out on that a little bit. It's not Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney, it's Paul Millman and Rob Whitney, unfortunately. And it looks like they've been separated a little bit by George pushing through the field now. Colin Keneath currently up in sixth at the moment. He hasn't quite rocketed through the field as we've seen on some reverse grid events, but he's making good progress and hasn't found himself in too much trouble yet, as Anthony Gray takes first position from Adam Holder, who has led for a lot of lap one for the moment. As the contact, there's not contact, there's just some very good overtakes for through turn 9 there. Alex Smith just about keeping it ahead of Colin Keneath. This is races like this really are Alex Smith, drivers like Alex Smith's opportunity to try and steal some points away from the very quick drivers that are likes of Matt Eddy and Colin Keneath. Colin Keneath gets it very messy through turn one there. A lot of oversteer. Luckily managed to avoid the wall, but he has dropped a few positions as a result of that. And as I said, races like this really are people like Alex's opportunity to score some very good points indeed. If he can just make some good, consistent, clean progress through the field and Colin Keneath gets tangled up in battles like that, we will see a pretty big delta separating, growing between the two drivers. So you see Paul and George Brooke Battersby are pretty much side by side heading towards turn 4 there. The camera unfortunately not quite following them through the entry of turn 4. As we see, Guy Swarbrick is actually out. I'm not sure what's happened there, but we have lost Guy Swarbrick for the moment. I understand he was having some internet connection issues earlier, which is not particularly helpful if you are a driver, so hopefully he can get those resolved and get back in on the racing action as Andrew Whitehead overtakes Adam Holder, who has been fairly high up in the positions for a lot of this race, but he is under quite a bit amount of pressure now. So a lot to ask of a rookie to be this high up in the grid, and he's done a very good job indeed so far. As we just see, in fact, is that Will Harper having a spin? It is Will Harper spinning through turn 10. It's almost pretty much a mirror of race 1, unfortunately, for Will. He's going to have to try and pull another recovery drive out of the bag. What a shame. He has some very good pace, but unfortunately, he's just been tangled up in a bit too many instances of contact. What a shame for Will there. That sees his challenge in this race dampened for the moment. Colin Keneath now up into 5th, and just a couple of seconds separating him and Alex once again. Colin really demonstrating he has some good pace. I believe it's Anthony Gray. Oh no, it was Alex Smith taking the fastest lap of the race with a 1:33. So very nice lap for the first couple of laps when you're involved in so much battling at the start of these races. About just over half a second separating Anthony Gray and Andrew Whitehead now. Andrew Whitehead, a very quick driver indeed. He'll be putting on some pretty good pressure towards Anthony Gray as we head through the end of Sector 2. That Colin Keneath is very close indeed to Adam Holder on the exit of turn 7 and into turn 8 as he switches to the outside there to try and get the move done. He switches back around once again, heading into turn 9. He just ekes out ever so slightly in front, and this will be his corner. However, Adam's going to try and hold it around the outside. Unfortunately, there's contact between the two drivers. I'm not sure what happened there. Not sure if Colin just went a little bit wider than he thought, or maybe he thought that Adam wasn't quite alongside him there, or if Adam just miscalculated there and clattered alongside Colin there. But whatever happened, that has not helped either one of their races. Adam was able to carry on, but unfortunately for Colin, he is now back in 8th position. And while that was happening, Andrew Whitehead has been able to get past Anthony Gray. Anthony Gray having his own issues further on the track. Fortunately for him, he's now in 6th. That's at turn 1. He has lost his battle for the podium there, it must be said, now behind Colin, who having just had issues himself at turn 10. It's now Andrew Whitehead out in front with Alex Smith very close behind. George Brook Battersby running very nice indeed in 3rd position for his first race weekend, so well done to him. He's kept it clean, as we've seen some other drivers so far in this race haven't been able to, and it's hurt them immensely. Anthony Gray in 10th at the moment, then John Baker getting past. Imagine Anthony's tyres are pretty toasty, as are Colin's, but that's not deterring Colin from a fight at all. He's currently now in 6th position and will surely enough, he will be fighting for the podium perhaps as we get further on into the race. See now about half a second between Alex Smith and Andrew Whitehead as they head towards turn 9. Alex Smith echoing every single move that Andrew makes is getting a little bit of oversteer. The car got a little bit unhappy there entering turn 9. That must have been pretty scary from inside the cockpit. Hasn't affected him too badly. He had a fairly good run through turn 10 owing to that little bit less speed he was carrying that he scrubbed off in turn 9. He really hasn't hurt him too much, in fact. So if he's clean through turn 1, we should see him putting some pressure on Andrew Whitehead. George Brook Battersby setting a 132.1 there. Very nice lap from him indeed in his first weekend in the car. Colin Keneath, however, brings challenge to that with a 131.9. He'll be getting very close to Adam in 5th very soon, I can imagine. See John Baker, who was overtaking Anthony Gray at this point in the track just a lap ago, is now fighting to keep it up with Anthony himself, about a second separating them. But John running very nicely indeed for his first weekend in the car. That gap between Alex and Andrew has grown just a little bit as they head towards turn 4 now, or head through turn 4 rather. Now sitting at about a second. Alex needs to be making sure, if he wants to try and push for that top spot on the podium, that he doesn't make any mistakes like Andrew Whitehead has made there, and unfortunately that's put a big damper on his podium hopes there, putting it in the gravel, maybe carrying a little bit too much speed through turn 6. I've seen him put it in the gravel and then just get a massive snap of oversteer when he rejoined onto the tarmac, that runoff zone there. I've seen the car just swap around entirely, and now sees Colin Keneath in 5th and Andrew Whitehead in 6th for the moment. So what a shame for Andrew Whitehead there. Just that one mistake cost him fairly dearly, it must be said, as Rob Whitney is battling with Will Harper heading towards turn 9 for 7th. Colin Keneath up in 5th position now. Now about a second separating each of these cars there. Colin Keneath a very fast lap, 131.6 pretty much for him there, 5.9. Now only about half a second off Adam Holder in front of him for 4th position now, following Andrew Whitehead's misfortunes there. Alex Smith, his prayers were pretty much answered there, as we said. He's been given a little bit of clean air now to build up a defence against George behind him. So George doing very nicely indeed. He'll be leading that AM Championship if he can get a good enough result at the end of this race. 210 separating Colin Keneath, who's carrying so much more speed towards turn 4 there in that slipstream. And he takes the inside line on exit. He pushes him just a little bit wide there. Not illegal, just some very good racing from Colin there on the exit through turn 5 then. He has got a nice little gap, about half a second now for Colin. He's running with some very good pace indeed, especially after those tyres have been treated particularly nicely at the start of the race, owing to those spin arounds that he's had so far, and soon he'll be trying to mount up a challenge on Paul Millman, who is a few seconds out in front of him. Paul Millman has found himself in 3rd position, following the misfortunes of the other drivers so far in this reverse grid race. We've got just over 15 minutes remaining, heading through turn 10 then with Colin, as he looks to set, I can imagine, another very quick lap indeed. Now just over a second separating him and Paul Millman. The graphic at the bottom of the screen there, as you can see, hasn't quite updated, unfortunately, showing the gap between Colin and Adam being about a second. It's about 2 seconds, and it's for the wrong position on that graphic there. Now about 7/10 separating Colin and Paul. That gap shrinking in the slipstream, heading up towards turn 3 then. I'll just maybe give it a quick click to see if that... No, it won't fix it, unfortunately. So we'll just have to rely on the old school timing tower, and unfortunately, for Paul, Colin's going to have to rely on Paul having a big mistake through turn 3 on the exit. The car just got a massive amount of oversteer. Misjudged the exit of turn 3 there, and unfortunately he's now demoted down into 7th position. He's got a little bit of a gap behind him between him and Rob Whitney, so he's pretty much secure 7th for the moment, but too many more mistakes like that will find himself falling lower down in the grid still. Colin Keneath on the podium then. Now got about 9 seconds to catch up to George, who is running nicely in 2nd, about a second gap between him and Alex as we head towards turn 9 with Alex then, with just under 50 minutes to go. Just 2/10 separating Anthony Gray and Rob Whitney as they head towards turn 6. See Anthony carrying quite a bit of speed, a little bit of scrubbing, a little bit of oversteer from the front tyres there, heading through turn 6. But it looks like Anthony's got quite a nice exit out of turn 8, and he's gaining on him in the slipstream as we head towards turn 9 then. They are pretty much side by side, wheel to wheel. He dives in behind again, a little bit of a lock up, a little bit of front wing damage on Anthony Gray's car there, as you can see. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite been the challenge that he would have wanted. Will Harper and Rob Whitney are very close indeed, side by side, heading through turn 1 then. Will Harper taking the inside line, and he can get out just in front ever so slightly, but they're going to be side by side again pretty much. Andrew Whitehead getting a very good exit out of turn 1 indeed. However, Will's starting to just creep away ever so slightly, I would say. Or no, actually, Andrew's got a little bit of a better line, I would say, as he heads up towards turn 3. He can pretty much box off the inside line if he's brave under braking. He can pretty much box off Will if he's lucky. And he does that indeed. Now about half a second separating them on the exit of turn 3. So Will, once again, a nice little recovery drive from him as he hopes to salvage some points after the misfortunes of the start of both race 1 and race 2. He's done a very good job of it so far. He's a little bit too optimistic under braking there, unfortunately, for Will, and he does allow Andrew Ayer to rejoin in front. A nice bit of sportsmanship for him there. He, in fact, concedes a position. Both of them concede a position to Paul Millman as a result of that impact there. It looks like Will just dived onto the brakes a little bit too late. Maybe he was hoping to get a lunge done under braking into turn 4, and that didn't quite work out for him, and it took Andrew Whitehead with him, unfortunately, but not too much is lost. They are very close to Paul Millman out in front, and I'm sure they are happy to be having some racing action anyway, as George Brooks enters the pits. Not sure if that's mechanical damage or maybe a drive-through penalty, but for whatever reason, George has had to enter the pits, unfortunately, and that sees Colin Keneath now in 2nd position. He's now been given some clear air, and he can see his opposition out in front. Just under 10 seconds separating him and Alex. We saw there was just over 20 seconds separating them at the end of race 1, and it was the other way around. It was Colin Keneath having victory by about 20 seconds. He'll be hoping for the same again. He's going to have to work pretty hard to mount up a challenge against Alex, though, as we head into the second half of this race. Of course, Alex running very nicely indeed. Colin having quite a lot of misfortune so far in this race, but he's now got some clean air to try and hunt Alex down. About a tenth of a second separating Paul and Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead getting the move done on the exit of turn 3 then. He comes out in 4th position then and retains the position that he lost following that impact with Will Harper just a lap ago. So, in fact, we see Will Harper defending just a little bit from George Brook, who was having to pit on that previous lap in mysterious circumstances, I would say. I'm not quite sure what happened there. See Andrew Whitehead dipping onto the gravel yet again. We've seen that happen to him before, and it really cost him a lot. It cost him the podium. And unfortunately, he's done the same again. It's allowed Paul to catch up. Paul carrying some front wing damage there, as you can see. But he's running nicely indeed, and we're going to be pretty much 4 wide. I can imagine heading to turn 9. This could get interesting. As we see Paul losing out just a little bit on entry there. Will Harper getting past him. But George Brook Battersby getting past Will as well. So he's done very well at the end of that lap there. About 10 seconds now separating Adam Holder and Andrew Whitehead. Adam Holder has done very well in this race so far then. He started on pole and is currently still in 3rd position. Just over 10 minutes to go. Very good for his first weekend in the car and his first reverse grid in the car. Still just over half a second separating Andrew and George. George running very nicely indeed. He really did have leading pace. Such a shame to see his challenge for the lead come to an end owing to that pit stop. But we're sure to see some good racing from it anyway, as Will Harper gets a big front axle lock up there, just completely stopping in their tracks, those wheels. Fortunately, he has to concede the position back to George Brook Battersby, and he remains in 6th position for the moment. But as we've seen from Will so far this weekend, he has got some good pace. In fact, all of these drivers do, and we've seen some great action from them so far. About a second separating Paul and Anthony Gray then, as these 4 start to separate slowly. Will kicking up a little bit of dust there. Not sure if he just misjudged the exit there, and the rear tyre just kicked up a little bit of dirt. Nothing too major. Won't have affected him too much. I doubt he would have even noticed it in the car. But now about still just over half a second separating Andrew Whitehead and George Brook Battersby. As we see, is that Will Harper? That is Will Harper. What a shame for Will Harper there. That sees him relegated back down into 8th. And if he's not careful, he might have Rob Whitney to contend with. What a shame for Will. That must be his challenge for kind of 4th or 5th coming to an end there. Unfortunately, we're in the final 10 minutes of the race. It's not the type of mistake you want to be making when you're in a fairly good position. What a shame for Will. He's now down in 8th position. That has promoted Paul back up into 7th. Paul has been running nicely there. He's made a couple of errors, but he's shown some fairly good pace when he's been able to, heading towards turn 3 then. As we see, unfortunately, I think some more connection issues for Guy Swarbrick. He's been at the bottom of the grid owing to those technical issues that we saw earlier. He missed a couple of laps, and it looks like the same is happening again, unfortunately, for our organiser, Guy Swarbrick. Let's hope he can join some racing action and have some fun on track as we head into the final few minutes of this race. And now about half a second, again, separating Andrew Whitehead and George Brook Battersby heading into turns 4 and 5. On exit then, it doesn't really look like he's got a challenge anywhere. I'd say they're pretty much neck and neck in terms of pace, these two. We've seen Andrew Whitehead making a mistake on the exit of turn 6 towards turn 7 before. I don't think he'll do that same this time. It looks like maybe he was pushing a bit too hard on those laps where he found himself in the gravel. Of course, we're heading into the final few minutes, final few laps of this race then. The tyres are going to start struggling and going to start complaining through these high-speed corners. We see George getting a very good exit out of turn 8 there, and as we head into turn 9, is he going to look? He isn't going to look down the inside this time around. He's going to wait for Andrew to go a little bit wide, and as we head towards turn 10, he's going to be very brave indeed, and over the curb gets the move done. He's just ever so slightly out in front as we start the next lap. They are pretty much side by side. Andrew Whitehead getting past maybe a little bit of a difference in setup there, or that exit over the curb not helping George out too much, but that was a very good move indeed. We see them through turn 1 then. George retaining 3rd position for the moment. Actually, yeah, no, it is George. Pardon me. The liveries are quite similar from a distance there. George currently in 3rd position, and he is on for a podium if he can defend well enough from Andrew Whitehead as we enter the final 5 minutes of this race in just a moment. See, it wasn't the perfect entry for George into turn 3 then. He left the door open pretty much for Andrew. He's able to just sweep up on the inside and box him off just a little bit. However, he got a fairly good exit, and he's going to try and get side by side as we head towards turn 4 then. If he's brave under braking, he can try and box him off. He doesn't do that. He goes pretty much side by side, tries to push him wide on exit. And it looks like it's worked. They're going to be side by side yet again, heading towards turn 6. This is great racing between these two. Getting just about as close as you want to get, really, before you start pushing each other off track. And it looks like George, for the moment, has got the move done. But don't get Andrew out at all. These are two very, very quick drivers indeed. Some very good racing going on between them. As we head towards turn 9, and this is where it all went wrong for Andrew last time. Can his fortunes be reversed? And can we see the same happening to George? And can we see Andrew trying to capitalise on that? See George taking a lot of curb on exit again. See the car kind of twitching about there. Not sure if that was lag or that was him trying to correct from the car being upset by that curb. But it's a line that I've seen him taking that other drivers haven't taken yet, but it seems to work for him. He's got some very good pace indeed. We see Will Harper is on the rear, is on the gearbox of Paul Millman. Paul Millman weaving a little bit down the straight to try and break the slipstream, perhaps heading towards turn 1 then. Will's going to try and dive up the inside under braking, and it looks like that's going to work for him. Very nice move from Will there. He heads towards turn 2. Ever so slightly out in front, but Paul Millman does have the advantage of the slipstream. He's going to try and box off the inside if he can, but unfortunately he can't without that just being blatant blocking, unfortunately. And if Paul's brave under braking, which I imagine he's going to try and be, he can try and steal the position back. It looks like Will's done a very nice job of pretty much boxing him off there, and will exit out in front again. Will Harper in 7th for the moment then, but don't count Paul out. Some very good racing going on in the final few minutes of this race. Meanwhile, out in front, Alex Smith has been leading for quite a lot of this race now, but we see with just under 5 minutes remaining, Colin Knieve has carved out about 3 seconds of that lead. It stood at about 9-10 seconds. If Colin Knieve sets a few very good laps now, he could soon be on the tail of Alex, and we could be on for a very good battle towards the end of the race indeed. Looks like the gap between Andrew and George has just opened up a little bit now as we head on to the start-finish straight to start another lap with George and Andrew. Maybe Andrew has, well, I imagine both drivers have exercised their tyres pretty harshly in that very close battle. And now Andrew will try and recharge and regroup his thoughts as we head into the final stages of this race, and he tries to push to get himself that podium position back. Now just over 5.5 seconds between Alex Smith and Colin. That interval is getting smaller. The question is it getting smaller quick enough? Speaking of small deltas, we see Will Harper on the back of Adam Holder heading towards turn 4. We've seen Will Harper has put in some very impressive moves indeed so far. Unfortunately, he's had some misfortune as well and a couple of spins. But he is once again on for a nice recovery drive from the back of the grid pretty much to 6th or 7th position. Let's see how this lap goes for Adam Holder and Will Harper as we come to the end of Sector 2. We've seen Will Harper is very good under braking. He's done some impressive dives under braking. It doesn't look like he even needs to do that. Round turn 7 there, he just carried a lot more pace and was able to steal the inside from Adam, who kind of left the door open through turn 7, and he now has Adam in his slipstream heading towards turn 9. See Adam opting to go just a little bit wider there. Will also taking a little bit of curb, akin to George as we saw in his battle with Andrew. But Will just extending that gap just a little bit as they head onto the start-finish straight now. It's now about 8 seconds between him and Anthony Gray in 5th. I don't think he'll be able to bring a challenge towards Anthony unless we have mistakes. I've always said unless we have mistakes so far this weekend, and it's usually around the time that I say unless we have mistakes when a mistake happens. So we'll be very happy with 6th, I can imagine, but he'll be hoping for a little bit more. However, Andrew Holder is looking like he could put some pressure on him in at some point at this lap. As we see on the exit of turn 3, he has caught up to him substantially. He was a little bit braver under braking there. And now about 3:10 to separate these two drivers. Speaking of the time separating the drivers, Colin Knieve and Alex Smith. Colin has found about another 3 seconds. He's lapping very quickly indeed as the fuel loads start to get lighter. The tyres start to drop off though. But Colin Knieve now about 4 seconds separating him and the leader, Alex Smith. This is Alex's to lose, it must be said, with just a couple of laps remaining now. Alex will be hoping to not make any mistakes, really, as he overtakes some lap traffic. Actually, someone we haven't seen so far in this race, owing to his technical issues that we saw before. It's Guy Swarbrick, currently running 11th. He's actually only about 15 seconds down on John, which is very good going indeed, given I believe he had to disconnect on a couple of occasions, or that may have been a timing glitch. Now about 3.5 seconds separating Alex Smith as Colin Cleave also gets past that lap traffic that we saw Alex get past but a moment ago. Less than a minute left on the timer now. As we see the gaps for the rest of the field starting to just open up a little bit as the tyres start to drop off. The drivers are finding their own little bit of tarmac to occupy. However, Colin Cleave is not wanting to occupy this bit of tarmac. He's wanting to occupy turn 7. That's the one that he wants to occupy because that's the one that Alex Smith is on at the moment. And now about 3.5 seconds, the gap between him and Alex. I'm sure that's going to close up as we head on to the final couple of laps now. Actually, the gap between George and Andrew has stayed at about 2 seconds for a lap or so. Andrew, unfortunately, losing out for Andrew. Unfortunately for Andrew, he's just lost out in that battle between him and George just a little bit now. We saw them having some very good battling indeed, side by side through so many corners, but unfortunately, George has had a good enough challenge against Andrew there. We see Colin has found some more time. He's got the fastest lap of the race for the moment. We've seen he's found about 7/10. This is not the news that Alex Smith wants to hear, and I'm sure he's not hearing it. I'm sure he's seeing it. I'm sure he's seeing that time just tick down slowly and slowly. That delta has just crept away from 10 seconds and gotten ever closer to 2, as we saw Colin carrying a lot of speed on corner exit there. It allows him to get just that little bit closer yet again. He's got 2 laps to go. Can he keep Colin behind him to take his first victory of the season? Gap pretty much staying consistent then as we come to the end of Sector 2 and onto the ultra-fast Sector 3/Sector 1. Sector 1's a very short sector on this track. I'm surprised it's even got it. I suppose we do have to have 3 sectors, but it's really, really minuscule. It's 1 corner. If you count corner 2 as well as a corner, which I don't. It's 2, but yeah, otherwise it's just the corner at the end of the start-finish straight pretty much. So the gap then staying at about 2.2, 2.3 seconds. We are now on the final lap. I can confirm that we won't have a repeat of the previous race where I got slightly confused as to what was going on at the end of the race. Unfortunately for Alex Smith, that big mistake that I said he wanted to try and avoid has come for him on the very last lap. He's led so many laps, and unfortunately for him, his chances of victory are over. Is he going to be able to keep the podium? I believe he will do now. It's about a 30-second gap. What a shame for Alex there. He has just messed up right when he didn't need to at all. What a shame. Oh, that's racing though, and unfortunately it looks like it could be second position for Alex, unless Colin can have a mistake just like that. He's pretty much just gifted Colin the victory though. He was going to have to fight for it as we head towards the end of the lap, but that type of tiny little error, and turn 1 can really catch drivers out. It must just be a tiny little error. Unfortunately had massive consequences for Alex Smith. That sees him down in second then. That'll be 2 second places in a row. I'm sure he won't feel it now, but he should be pleased with that amount of points to start off his championship fight with. But he was on for a victory. He had some very good pace. What a shame for Alex there. He just gifted Colin Cleave the win. Colin Cleave will be saying thank you very much, and that will be his second victory out of 2 races so far in this championship. Heading through turn 9 then, our race leader, who's had to fight pretty hard for it, it must be said. He's had some huge misfortune earlier on in the race and has battled his way through the pack to take home the victory. He weaves as he comes across the line, taking home the victory. Colin Cleave, very well deserved indeed. What a shame for Alex Smith, who will be coming around the turn 10 in just a moment in second. Colin Cleave then, full house in terms of points for him. 2 victories at round 1 here in Austria. Alex Smith takes home his second position of the week. And then, what a shame for him. It all went wrong here at turn 1. Still, though, a good amount of points for Alex Smith, taking home second. George Brook Battersby, very well indeed. Very good running indeed, taking home third position then, with Andrew Whitehead closely behind in fourth. He fought hard for it. Very good to see him scoring a podium in his first weekend here in the Formula Alpha Championship. Anthony Gray taking home 5th then. Nice set of points for him, as is the case for Will Harper, who comes across the line in 6th. A fairly good recovery drive once again for Will. Paul Millman coming across the line in 7th position. Well done to Paul. Adam Holder, well done to him, taking home 8th position. Rob Whitney coming around turn 10 then to take home 9th position, with Guy Swarbrick taking home 10th. So, well done to all the drivers then for a hugely action-packed first weekend in this championship here in Austria. It is Colin Knief who has the advantage out in the championship at the moment, taking 2 victories away from this weekend. Very well-deserved victories indeed. Some very good racing this weekend, and I look forward to joining you in 2 weeks to see these Formula Alpha cars racing again. However, in between that though, we do have the TCR Championship with 3 different cars on offer for the drivers, and that'll be happening this time next week. So I hope to see you then, and I hope to see you in a fortnight's time for the second round of this championship. Until then.